In this video, I'm going to talk about individual differences in second language acquisition. So why are individual differences in second language acquisition important? Everyone probably knows that not all people succeed in second language acquisition. This is in sharp contrast with first language acquisition because all healthy children can acquire their mother tongue or first language given enough linguistic input. However, we all know that not all individuals succeed in acquiring a second language. And the individual differences in the success in second language acquisition come from, at least some of them come from individual differences that are part of the learners themselves. So the learners, individuals, they differ in many factors, and some of those factors have strong effects on second language acquisition. So these are the main individual differences that are known to influence second language acquisition: language aptitude, motivation, and language anxiety. Language aptitude is a talent for learning new languages. And some people have higher language aptitude than others. Motivation, what is motivation? I think you know what a motivation is. But I'm going to explain it later. Stronger motivation leads to more successful second language acquisition. And also motivation is influenced by many factors. Language anxiety, higher language anxiety tends to result in poorer second language performance. So obviously, these are important. In this video, I'm not going to talk about the learner's age, even though this is also a very important factor in second language acquisition, because I just can't talk all of it. This is too important. So I'm not going to talk about the learner's age in this video. So first, let me talk about language aptitude. So language aptitude is a talent for language learning. But it's also true that everyone has an ability for language learning because healthy people can acquire their L1 given enough input. But it's also true that some people are better at learning a second or foreign language than others. So these people can learn their L2 faster or more easily than other people. So given the same time and the same input, some people are faster than other people who are slower. So in this case, we say that these people have higher language aptitude. So they can learn the L2 faster or more easily. So this is very interesting data. So this data shows that L2 learners with higher language aptitude can learn an L2 faster. So this data comes from this organization called the Foreign Service Institute in America. I'm not quite sure whether this institute still exists because this data is quite old. But it seems that at this institute, diplomats are trained. And this data, among other things, this data reports, among other things, that after 720 hours of L2 learning at this place, English-speaking diplomats with different language aptitude have acquired different levels of second language speaking proficiency. So these numbers represent levels of second language proficiency these diplomats have attained. Okay? So if the number is high, like here, it means that they have attained a higher level of second language proficiency. Okay? And here we have different language aptitude: minimum aptitude, lowest aptitude, average aptitude, normal aptitude, and superior aptitude, good aptitude. And here we have language groups from group 1 to group 4. And actually, these languages in group 1, they are the easiest for native English-speaking people. And these languages in group 4, these languages are the most difficult for English-speaking people. As you can see in these numbers, given the same amount of exposure, given the same length of learning, people with higher aptitude have attained a higher level of speaking proficiency. So the speed of second language learning dependent on how high these people's language aptitude was. But it's also dependent on which second language, which language they learned. Okay, so both language aptitude and this linguistic factor are important. And language aptitude is not actually the same as general intelligence. So language aptitude is at least partly different from general intelligence. So some people have high IQ, other people have low IQ. But people with high IQ, IQ means intelligent quotient, people with high IQ do not always have high language aptitude. So these two types of people can be different. So someone can be good at languages, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that person, those people, have high IQ. And there are also other people who have high IQ, but who are not really good at languages. And how can we measure language aptitude? The most widely used test of language aptitude is this. It's called the Modern Language Aptitude Test. So it's a very, very old test, but actually newer tests of language aptitude are not clearly better than this one. So this is simply a great test. And we can use this test to predict who or which learners can learn an L2 rapidly. Isn't it great? Interestingly, this test is taken in one's mother tongue. For example, native English speakers take this test in English. Excuse me. So these are sample questions from the Modern Language Aptitude Test. You can find them on the internet. So native English speakers take this test in English. So they answer these questions in English. And based on their scores, we can predict how successful they will be if they learn an L2. So this suggests that there is something in common between your L1 and your L2. Okay, so there is some kind of common basis for your L1 and for your L2. And the Modern Language Aptitude Test measures 4 abilities. 1, phonemic coding ability concerning pronunciation or phonology. 2, grammatical sensitivity concerning grammar or syntax. 3, rote learning ability concerning vocabulary or lexicon. 4, inductive language learning ability concerning pattern recognition. I think you can see that all of these are actually very important in language and language learning, obviously. And one question that many researchers have been pursuing is this, whether language aptitude changes or not. So Does it change? Or is it trainable? Or is it stable? Doesn't change. And it has been long thought that language aptitude does not change in the same individual. So it's stable, so it's not trainable. Newer research challenges this view, but actually the evidence so far is not convincing. So I think we can say that language aptitude does not change dramatically. It may change to some extent, but it doesn't change dramatically in the same individual. Okay, next, I'm going to talk about motivation. So what is motivation? Motivation is an enthusiasm for doing something or reasons for doing something. Okay? And obviously, second language learners have a motivation to learn an L2. Otherwise, they will not learn any L2. So I think they have some kind of motivation, but some second language learners have a strong motivation while others have a weak motivation. Okay? And what is the importance of motivation? Actually, more highly motivated L2 learners tend to be more successful in L2 learning. So you need to be motivated if you want to attain a high level of second language proficiency. And actually, this is different from first language acquisition because success in first language acquisition does not really depend on motivation. So all healthy children just naturally acquire their first language. And there are different types of motivation. The most well-known types are these: integrative motivation and instrumental motivation proposed by these researchers. So what is integrative motivation? Integrative motivation is a desire to be part of the target language community. So integrate means to bring someone with particular characteristics into a group. So for example, let's say you are an immigrant to America. So you're born in Japan, but you moved to America and you want to live there. So you're an immigrant to America and you want to be part of the American society. And you want friends, you want to keep living there, etc. So in this kind of case, you may have strong integrative motivation. So you want to be part of the English community. And what is instrumental motivation? An instrument is like a tool. So people with an instrumental motivation for L2 learning see the L2 as a tool to achieve something. For example, passing entrance exams. And integrative motivation has great impact on second language acquisition. So integrative motivation is positively correlated with second language achievement in naturalistic SLA. So people with higher integrative motivation tend to achieve a higher level of second language proficiency in this kind of context. So naturalistic SLA is like if you are born in Japan and move to America and start learning English there, it's naturalistic SLA. So in naturalistic SLA, instrumental motivation, so this one, instrumental motivation, is a weaker predictor of second language achievement. So the impact of integrated motivation is stronger in naturalistic SLA. But in foreign language learning is like, you know, you are born in Japan and grew up in Japan and you learn English in Japan. So in Japan, English is a foreign language. It's not really used for communication at all. So in this kind of case, instrumental motivation is also positively correlated with L2 achievement, even though it's a weaker predictor of L2 achievement in naturalistic SLA. So in foreign language learning, higher instrumental motivation leads to higher second language proficiency. However, there is a problem here. Once learners have achieved their goal, their instrumental motivation rapidly goes down. So this is exemplified by this. Japanese learners of English tend to lose their motivation to learn English after they have passed university entrance exams. I think many people have experienced this. And here there is an important important question. Is this relationship between motivation and second language achievement, is it a correlation or causation? The effects of motivation on L2 achievement have been reported by correlational studies. So what is a correlation? There are two kinds of correlations, positive correlation and a negative correlation. So this shows a positive correlation and this shows a negative correlation. So a positive correlation is like this. When the value of one factor, let's say here, is high, the value of another factor is also high. So for example, taller people tend to weigh more. So if you compare babies with adults, babies are short and weigh less, and adults are taller and weigh more. So there is a positive correlation between height and weight. And a negative correlation is like this. When the value of one factor is high, the value of another factor is low. For example, students who use a smartphone for longer hours tend to have lower academic grades. So this is a negative correlation. And importantly, correlation does not mean causation. So causation means that A causes B, but correlation just means A and B are correlated, but it's not clear which causes which. Does A cause B or does B cause A? We are not sure. So there are different possibilities here. Possibility one is that higher motivation causes more successful L2 learning. I think this is true, but there's another possibility. Successful L2 learning motivates learners more. I think this is also true. So probably this third possibility is true. So both are true. Okay, let me talk about language anxiety. Learners feel nervous, worried, or stressed when learning or using an L2. So language anxiety is these feelings of nervousness, worry, and stress. Okay? And it's known that some L2 learners are more anxious than others. For example, some learners become nervous when they have to speak their L2 in front of many people, while others don't. You know, some people are more anxious, but other people are more relaxed. But it's also true that anxiety changes within the same individual, because language anxiety depends on particular situations and can change in the same individual. So please imagine a situation where you have to speak your L2 with a classmate who speaks the same L1, and you speak your L2 with that person in pair work. It's just you and that person. I think you'll feel more relaxed. However, if you have to speak your L2 in front of many learners, many classmates in the class, maybe you'll feel more anxious. And if there is only one non-native speaker, you, and all the other people in the room, in the same room, are native speakers, and we have to go to the front and we have to speak your second language in front of those native speakers, I think you will feel even more anxious. So language anxiety can change in the same individual. And just like motivation, anxiety influences second language learning and performance. So research has already shown that language anxiety has negative effects on second language learning. So according to these researchers, it has been shown that anxiety negatively affects performance in the second language. In some cases, anxiety provides some of the highest simple correlations of attitudes. So anxiety is a kind of attitude, simple correlations with second language achievement. So if you have high language anxiety, your second language performance will be lower. But again, we have to ask this question, is it just a correlation or is it causation? Because unsuccessful second language learning may lead to more language anxiety. Typically, young children who are learning a second language, young second language learners do not have much language anxiety, at least initially. So young children are happy and relaxed. But if they experience something negative in their second language learning, they may start to have language anxiety. So negative experience resulting from poor second language performance may cause anxiety. So in this case, anxiety is the result. So it's the result, not the cause of unsuccessful L2 learning. So the relationship can be bidirectional. So we have this effect in this direction, but we may also have this. And it's also true that there are some positive effects of anxiety. So feeling too anxious typically leads to poor L2 performance. This is also true. However, feeling just a little nervous may help you concentrate more. I think this is also true. And then in this kind of case, the word tension is used. So the word tension is a more neutral word than anxiety, and it's sometimes used to describe positive aspects of just a little bit of anxiety. And there are some educational implications. So first, teachers have to recognize that L2 learners have individual differences, and some of those differences contribute to success or failure in SLA. So first, teachers have to recognize this fact. And teachers have to make efforts to keep second language learners' motivation high and to keep their anxiety low. And even if it's difficult to change learners' language aptitudes, teachers can give learners positive experiences, which will lead to higher motivation and lower anxiety. So if you want to become a teacher of English, please try to praise your students' achievements and also give them positive feedback. Okay, to summarize, individual differences such as language aptitude, motivation, and anxiety have very clear effects on SLA. There are actually some other factors, some other individual differences that impact SLA. And one of the most important factors is the learner's age, but I couldn't talk about it in this video. Learners with higher language aptitude learn an L2 faster. Okay? There are some people who have higher language aptitudes and they can learn an L2 faster and more easily. And language aptitude does not change dramatically, greatly in the same individual, but motivation and anxiety do change dynamically, actually. And motivation and anxiety can be the result as well as the cause of good or poor L2 performance. And there are different types of motivation, integrative motivation and instrumental motivation, and they have different effects in different contexts. And anxiety can have both positive and negative effects. And teachers must take these factors into account when teaching an L2. Thanks for listening.